Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to us red-pilled Americans. You can get great discounts on all MyPillow products right now at MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener specials and get deep discounts on MyPillow mattress toppers, towels, and much more. Mike is offering a buy one, get one free on Giza Dream Sheet Sets. Go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener square and use promo code RED, or call 800-872-0519 and use promo code RED.
Before we start the show, just a reminder to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And please, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us beat the big tech algorithm. Also, if you love Red Pilled America, please consider becoming a Backstage subscriber. For as little as $5 a month, you'll have exclusive access to our entire back catalog of episodes and our behind-the-scenes podcast. Just visit redpilledamerica.com and click support in the top menu for details. Support what you love or it goes away. Thanks, everyone.
Hey guys, we just wanted to warn you that there is some saucy adult language in this episode. It's a special story for us because it's actually the first audio documentary that we've ever produced. It's based on a true story, and we originally created it just for fun and to share with a few friends, never guessing at the time that we'd be producing it for our own storytelling show. Yet here we are. We changed some of the names to protect the privacy of the people involved. Enjoy.
Not so long ago, I had one of those moments where I was at a loss for words. That's a bit of a rarity for me, but it happened with my daughter. I'm sure many of you have faced this before too, where you're so conflicted on how to answer a kid's question, so you try to run through all the possibilities in your head before responding with something that will potentially scar them for life. I was sitting on the couch, thumbing through Facebook, when a video popped into my timeline that sort of stopped me in my tracks. It was 2 girls fighting. One of those ugly brawls that drops your mouth open, but you can't help but watch. What I didn't realize is that my daughter was looking over my shoulder.
Mommy, have you ever been in a fight before?
That was the moment I asked myself, should I tell the truth?
I'm Patrick Corelchi.
And I'm Adriana Cortez.
And this is Red Pilled America, a storytelling show.
This is not another talk show covering the day's news. We are all about telling stories.
Stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.
Stories the media mocks. Stories about everyday Americans that the globalists ignore.
You could think of Red Pilled America as audio documentaries, and we promise only one thing. The truth. Welcome to Red Pilled America.
So Father's Day is coming up, and in keeping with our America First values, we've created a Red Pilled America barbecuing apron for Dad that's 100% made in the USA. The apron is embroidered with the words, "Father Grills Best" on the front, because, let's face it, fathers matter. It's the perfect gift for Dad or for the father figures in your life. The apron goes well with our Toxic Masculinity mug or one of our RPA baseball hats. Visit redpilledamerica.com and click shop in the top menu. That's redpilledamerica.com and click shop in the top menu. Should I tell the truth? That was the question I asked myself when my daughter caught me watching a chick fight and asked if I'd ever been in one. It's a moment that all parents have faced when raising their child. And for that matter, anyone that has been asked an adult question by a little one. My daughter's curiosity took me back to a moment many years before, one that I'll never forget. I'm standing in the middle of a dystopian nightmare, trapped in a concrete jungle. Concrete ground, concrete benches, concrete tree planters, concrete building after concrete building. And I'm concretely fucked. My middle school quad has been transformed into what feels like a cement gladiator arena, and I'm the main attraction. I've never been in a real fight before, but here I am, all 5'1.5" of me, squared off against the toughest chick on campus. As I gaze at the bloodthirsty crowd that has come by what appears to be the thousands, I'm one clench away from pooping my fluorescent pink parachute pants. Spectators seem to be spilling out of every available crevice. They're perched in the trees, hoisted on shoulders, scaling light posts, and dangling out of classroom windows, just to watch me be pummeled. It's a tribal atmosphere, and the natives are getting restless. As I scan the raucous crowd, my eyes are met with an endless number of faces that are for the most part familiar. I take note of how many truly ugly people there are in the world. And no, I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean just plain fugly. It's as if the entire school is present. The jocks, cheerleaders, marching band geeks, brainiacs, skanks, stoners, hip-hop junkies, new wavers, rockabillys, goth, disco biscuits, dorks, and nerds. You name it. And not only are they here, but they're rolling deep. It's as if the pending fight is a mandatory school assembly, organized and sanctioned by the school, because clearly even the teachers in attendance show no sign of breaking this thing up. With all eyes on me, all I'm thinking is, this better work or I'm screwed. The random chatter of braces now turns more melodic, with the sound of loud foot stomping to the beat of a less than flattering anthem. Some poser is attempting to beatbox, while the real hip-hop junkies are spitting out some pretty dope rhymes about yours truly.
Ass kicked, she finna get her ass kicked.
She finna get her ass kicked is the chorus. Frankly, it's a pretty catchy tune, but I certainly can't bop my head to the beat of me getting my ass whooped. It's a beautiful Southern California day, but despite the 80-degree weather, I feel cold. My heart is pounding so hard that my left boob appears to be waving hi to the audience. Then, the crowd abruptly becomes so quiet, you can hear a number 2 pencil drop as everyone turns their head towards the clock. The thunderous sound of the final seconds tick away until the moment the big arm strikes 2:50 p.m. That's it, I think. It's about to go down. I look at my enemy dead in her Ray-Bans, bracing myself, as a question enters my mind. How in the world did I end up in this mess? The quick answer, my big mouth. It was 1984 when this Catholic schoolgirl became a public schoolgirl. Yeah, the nuns booted me from St. Christopher for having a potty mouth. That's a story for another time. But let's just say for now, my record for the most pink slips in a single year likely stands to this day. So, with nowhere else to go, my mom enrolled me into Holland Crest Junior High School in West Covina, California, and I didn't know a single soul. I was terrified, and making things worse were the constant, "You're so tiny" comments. Yes, my stature was and still is what you would call borderline midget. But the fact is, I identify tall. Now, in Catholic school, you're taught all about the quote-unquote terrifying perils of the public school system. According to my mother superior, there were hedonist bullies that steal your lunch money, pull up your skirt, shove your face into toilets, and would beat you to a bloody pulp. Ay, Dios mío. It goes without saying that my early educators scared the living bejesus out of me. I walked onto my new campus, and all that was running through my head was, I'm going to die. That girl wants to mess with me. Don't make eye contact. Just keep walking. Don't look up. Just keep walking. On that first day of public school, I had the good fortune of meeting the person who would become my very best friend, Lisa. I can still remember the moment vividly. I was wearing a fluorescent lime green top with matching pants, cream ballet flats that tied over my foot, and a gigantic bow wrapped around my head. The bow was also in fluorescent lime green. I must have looked like a lady leprechaun. The other kids probably expected me to say, "Stay away from me, pot of gold," when I spoke. But I had the haircut of the moment, with one side of my head shaved and the other side long to my shoulder. It was an exaggerated version of the asymmetrical bob that was so popular in the 80s. I walked into my 6th period physical education class, which was being held in the auditorium so that all of the classes could be properly briefed at one time. As I entered the room, I decided I'd sit towards the back so that the murderous pagans I'd heard so much about couldn't easily spot me.
Hurry up, come on guys, sit down, hurry it up. Plenty of room over here. Welcome to 6th period PE, okay? Let's get the hard stuff out of the way, alright? Gym clothes and showering etiquette. Everyone is required.
Showering? Dear God, these people are animals. As I entered my row, I stopped dead in my tracks as I noticed a girl with a strikingly fashionable hairdo entering the row from the opposite side. Could it be? No way. My gosh, she is so cool, I thought to myself. We both arrived to the middle of the row in mutual admiration. It was my future best friend Lisa, and we were sporting the exact same hairdo. That moment was the beginning of a lifelong friendship together. A good haircut can do that, you know? Lisa was already, on the first day of school, mind you, very popular. Everyone knew who she was, especially all the 8th graders. Now, to a 7th grader, that was mighty impressive. I soon came to learn that Lisa had an older sister, Tori, who had graduated the year before. Tori was legendary and extremely feared. The word on the streets was that it wasn't only the girls that she could handle with one swift swing of her fist, but the boys as well. She was exactly the kind of public school kid that I had heard about. I wasn't sure if I should be happy or scared that this notorious Tory person was my new BFF sister. I feared for the day I'd have to meet the bruiser herself. About 2 weeks later, that day arrived. To my surprise, Tori was no brute at all. Sweet as apple pie was the best way to describe her. Her soft demeanor behind closed doors was something that few at school witnessed. But do not be mistaken. Back in 1984, she'd cut a bitch if provoked. The one thing that perplexed me most about Tori was that she, like me, was extraordinarily short. So one day I asked her, from one little person to another, how it was that she became so infamous and skilled in the art of fight. She let me in on a little secret that day. She wasn't rough or tough or any of the things that everyone claimed she was. She just pretended to be. Early in her middle school career, she began strategically spreading rumors about her fighting exploits, and those rumors stuck. Now, don't get me wrong, she was definitely abnormally strong for her size, but she would go big at every confrontation to project fear into her targets, and perception is indeed reality for most. About a week after meeting Tori, my worst nightmare came to fruition. I'd learned that a homicidal maniac was coming for me. The butcher's name was Dora. You know how the new kid becomes the target of the big shots on campus? Well, that was me. Dora, for some reason, got it in for little old me. Tori's go big advice, combined with the fact that I was my father's daughter, a story for another time, meant I'd have to shed my Catholic girl plaid skirt for Dickies immediately and not back down once confronted by this hooligan. The day came quickly when I ran into Dora. It was in the hall on my way to 3rd period when I saw I was walking straight for her. My inner dialogue was screaming, "Run, run, run for your life, save yourself, hurry, go, fast!" But in that moment, I channeled Tori and my father's DNA, then opened my mouth and said, "Bitch, you don't want to mess with me, man. My hands are registered as lethal weapons, Holmes." Listen, when people look at me, they see Mexican, so it's either Chola or Speedy Gonzales, and I just didn't think that "Ándale, ándale, arriba, arriba" was going to scare her. Turned out, Chola worked, and I somehow managed to Jedi mind trick Dora and put the fear of God into her. She went running to her boyfriend, Mitch, and must have exhibited complete terror because Mitch decided to come after me himself. He was only a year older than me, but middle school years are like dog years, and word had it that he'd punched a girl in the face the year before. I'm telling you, these Holland Crest kids were no joke. I don't know what it was about being in junior high, but there always seemed to be an announcement as to when and where someone was going to get their ass kicked, making the build-up to the beatdown all the more horrifying. It was broadcasted that Mitch would be pummeling me the following day after school.
More after the break. You've heard the expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Well, if you haven't tried the licorice from the Licorice Guy yet, then that saying might be applicable. What are you waiting for? This licorice will blow your mind. Yes, it's that good. Trust me, I'm a licorice connoisseur of sorts, and it doesn't get any better than the Licorice Guy. The softness and delicious taste is second to none. They offer jumbo licorice sticks that come in nostalgic flavors like red, black, blue raspberry, chocolate, and green apple, to name a few. The Licorice Guy is an American family-owned business, and we're proud to have them as part of our RPA family. Red Pilled America listeners get 15% off when they enter RPA at checkout. Visit licoriceguy.com and order yours today. Don't forget to enter RPA at checkout. That's licoriceguy.com.
If you're a business owner who's hiring, you probably face a lot of challenges when it comes to finding the right person for your role. That's why hiring can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/redpill. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent to over 100 top job sites with one click. Then, ZipRecruiter's matching technology finds people with the right skills and experience for your job and actively invites them to apply. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So while other companies overwhelm you with way too many options, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at this web address, ziprecruiter.com/redpill. Remember to go to this unique place, ziprecruiter.com/redpill. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Welcome back. So I took Tori's advice and decided to go big against Dora by doing my best Chola impersonation. And it worked. But then word made it through the grapevine that her monster boyfriend Mitch was coming after me himself the following day after school. Oh my gosh, a boy is gonna beat me up, I cried in immense distress to my friends. That's when Lisa decided it was time to bring in the big guns. After school, we walked to Lisa's house, and when Tori arrived, we rushed to the front door to tell her about my impending crisis. Don't worry, let him know that I'll be there. And if he wants to fight you, he'll have to fight me first, Tori declared. Now those were some comforting fighting words. Sure enough, before second period the next day, it had spread like wildfire that Tori would be coming to school as my backup. Lunchtime rolled around and I was feeling pretty secure when I noticed that Mitch was walking straight towards my table. Oh my God! Doesn't he know he's breaking protocol? He's not supposed to beat me up until after school. I thought I should dive under the table, but before I could courageously take cover, Mitch was standing beside me. I closed my eyes, made the sign of the cross, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, then braced myself for his infamous bone-crushing uppercut. But it didn't come. After a few seconds, I heard him sheepishly say,
I just wanted to come over and say I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Was I going to avoid getting beaten up altogether right now?
I hope there's no hard feelings.
It was then that I was faced with the crossroad. Do I accept his apology and let him know how petrified I'd been? That was probably the right thing to do. But then I heard Tori's voice in my head say, "Perception is reality." And my big mouth took over again. You'd better be sorry. But it might be too late because Tori will be here after school, and she's coming for you. He looked like a kid getting his first rectal exam. I'm telling you, the power that Tori wielded with the threat of possibly coming after you was the kind of childhood indoctrination that dictators of developing countries could only dream of achieving. At 2:50 p.m., when the final bell rang to go home, I walked outside, and there was Tori. As promised, she had come to save my hide, but was proud to learn that I had held my own. Her apprentice had grown that day, So she decided it was time for me to start growing my very own myth, like she had done when she was just a young Padawan. Being that it was the era of the Karate Kid, she suggested I tell everyone that I was a black belt. No, let's make it a second-degree brown belt in karate. Tori coached me meticulously so that no one would ever know the truth. AJ-san, with the help of her sensei Tori, performed hours and hours of wax on, wax off, sand the floor, and paint the fences exercises so that I could fool even the most trained of eyes. I didn't learn a lick of karate, but if style was anything, I sure looked like a lethal weapon. When school came the next day, I began working that karate myth like a fat girl eats carbs. I channeled my inner Bruce Lee and told elaborate tales of my brutal and body-crushing matches, about how my sensei would work me all hours of the night, which was true if the night before counted, and that I could be imprisoned if I ever used my hands against an untrained civilian. In one class in particular, math with Mr. McKinney, I would talk about my karate skills at length. As chance would have it, there was a girl in math, Emma, who took judo, so she always wanted to talk about it. Someone who got to listen in on my mythical butt-kicking exploits was cute and unsuspecting BJ Castelloni. BJ sat next to us, so she got to hear firsthand about all of our martial arts battles. I used to say, loud enough so everyone in math could hear, that the type of karate I took was Taekwondo, which in fact isn't karate at all. Karate originates from Japan and Taekwondo originates from Korea. Luckily, there was no Google at the time, so BJ and the rest never questioned my faux pas. They just stood wide-eyed as I recounted stories of my death-defying encounters. I wasn't really ever sure if people believed me or knew I was completely full of it. All I could hope for was that the word would get out and the legend would take hold, that I was lethal, so I would never be faced with getting beaten up again. Just as I thought I'd be breezing through the school year unharmed, trouble started brewing again. A girl by the name of Trista Collinger, an 8th grader, had it in for me, and she challenged me to a fight. She was a tiny, cute little blonde who had seemed so sweet from a distance. Despite the lies I'd been spewing to the masses, this Trista chick was still willing to fight me. I was shocked, and quickly thereafter afraid for my life. She clearly must have known how to take someone down, otherwise she wouldn't risk her life against a legendary karate master like me. Exacerbating my predicament were the rumblings all over school about how my karate skills would soon be on full display. Damn it! Now what am I gonna do? I said to Tori in a panic. Tori's advice? Freak her out early. Grab her by the hair and yank her face down and then knee her right in the face. Nice advice, huh? After much consideration, I decided to call my dad, who was actually a black belt in what he called kata karate. Most parents aren't overjoyed to hear their kid is gearing up for a big fight, but my dad wasn't exactly conventional. My father was a gun-carrying foreigner who, let's just say, didn't abide by societal norms. He sure as hell wasn't raising a sissy girl. Is she a giant? He asked with concern. No, she's only an inch taller and she's really skinny, I answered. Screw it then! Kick her in the ass! He then proceeded to explain the differences between all of the various forms of martial arts. Aside from his obviously irresponsible advice, it was actually a pretty enlightening conversation. You see, I always thought that when my dad said he took kata karate, he meant to say just the word karate, but his thick accent somehow prevented him from saying it correctly. But kata was an actual term that explained karate moves. He was always running around the house demonstrating his various karate kicks and punches while singing Fat Man to the Batman tune. So logically, I thought he was always just being funny. Every single time he showcased a karate move, he would pair it with the loud, "Hi-ya, motherfucker!" I hung up the phone with my dad feeling a bit more prepared but no less petrified. There just had to be a way to get out of this mess.
More after the break.
I'm host Robin Roberts, and in COVID-19 Immunity in Our Community, a new podcast series from iHeartRadio and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, we're going to hear from Americans on the front lines, many of whom were uncertain about the vaccines and the facts that convinced them to roll up their sleeves, get vaccinated. We talked to Dr. Rochelle Walensky, director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
You know, I spent a year on the front lines during this pandemic, so I have so many stories. When it comes to reaching communities, it is those community health workers who find people who can convey to those people that there are healthcare workers out there who care, who want them to come in, who want to see them before they're super sick so we can intervene early.
Listen to COVID-19 Immunity in Our Community on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We can do this.
Welcome back. So my dad gave me a few karate pointers for the big fight. But when I got off the phone, I thought, there must be a way to get out of this mess. On the morning of the scheduled fight, I fake vomited in my mom's bathroom in a desperate attempt to get her to let me stay home from school. It didn't work. I didn't dare tell my mother the truth. I then contemplated writing a letter of confession and reading it over the loudspeaker during homeroom. Once people found out I didn't really know karate, they'd lose interest in watching me showcase my ancient Japanese art form.
Attention friends, my name's Adriana Cortez and I don't know any karate. I'm scared, and I just don't want to get beat up.
But that didn't happen, and the lies I'd been spewing were so good that it seemed the entire school was planning to attend the main event no matter what. There was no way out. The build-up to the fight was monumental, second only to Muhammad Ali's Thrilla in Manila. I got dressed in all fluorescent pink and went to school knowing I'd soon be facing certain humiliation. Ironically, that day of school was the dichotomy of terrifying and exhilarating. All of a sudden, I was like a mega celebrity. Kids I'd never spoken to gave me the thumbs up or walked by saying things like, "Go easy on her, kid." That kind of celebrity is addicting, and I sort of started to believe my own hype, a trait I've retained to this day. I'd smile and nod, all the while desperately trying to hide my debilitating fear. By the time 6th period came around, I was on the verge of soiling my oversized parachute pants. As the final school bell arrived, I walked out of PE with my trusty companion Lisa by my side. She was pep-talking me the whole way to the courtyard. We turned the corner to the main quad, and there was a large group of kids, with Trista Collinger standing in the middle waiting for me. I could hear myself breathing, and despite the 80-degree weather, felt a cold chill. Things got a little blurry, but I remember clearly that Lisa took the books out of my hands, which was my cue to get into my Karate Kid stance. At that point, I had no choice but to fully commit to my bullshit. I heard rumblings in the crowd as I struggled to stand on one leg to display my awesome crane technique. The next thing I remember is a loud, "Hi-ya!" coming out of my mouth as I put Tori's move into action. I grabbed Trista's hair, pulled her face to my knee, and attempted to knee her in the face. What was I thinking? That move is barely legal in the UFC today. Luckily, I had no idea what I was doing and missed. The scuffle continued briefly, but poor little Trista Collinger must have gotten really spooked by my Karate Kid pose because she froze. Before I knew it, it was over, and all I could hear were the oohs and ahs from my adoring crowd. I was dazed and confused, but apparently, through style alone, I had won the fight. The next day at school, I was a bona fide A-list celebrity. Only the likes of Madonna could compare in public adulation. Stories of my supreme martial arts skills were being told all over campus. I heard one kid, who I'd never seen before, telling the epic story of my ninja style. "She jumped up in the air and kicked her right in the face," was how the story morphed. An exaggerated version, to say the least. on, the story of my Jackie Chan prowess subsided, and by the time I got into high school, it was a distant memory. I never talked again about my training with my sensei because I dreaded ever being put to the test again, and undoubtedly being found out for the fraud I was. My close friends and I would occasionally mention the time that I beat up Trista Collinger, but it would quickly be laughed off because of the absurdity of the event. Luckily, kids have a really vivid imagination, and with the help of Tori and my dad's coaching, I made it through those scary school years relatively unscathed. I still, looking back, find it hard to fathom that anyone actually believed that I was a second-degree brown belt. But as I sat there, over 20 years later, staring at my Facebook timeline with my daughter asking if I'd ever been in a fight before, I noticed a friend request with a message from BJ Castelloni, my sweet and unsuspecting math classmate that was there when I first planted the seed of my fighting skills. Her message read, "Hey AJ, how are you? Hope all is good. Are you still taking karate?" That was the sign I needed.
So, Mommy, have you ever been in a fight before?
No, honey, not really. But don't worry, fighting is in your DNA. You'll be just fine. Yeah, good parents often lie to their kids. Red-pilled America promises the truth. And the truth is, sometimes when it comes to your kids, the truth needs to wait until they're old enough to process the information. And one day when she's old enough, she'll listen to this, and she too will learn the truth.
Red Pilled America is an iHeartRadio original podcast. It's produced by Adriana Cortez and me, Patrick Corelchi. Please consider becoming a Backstage subscriber. To subscribe, visit redpilledamerica.com and click the support button in the top menu. That's redpilledamerica.com and click the support button in the top menu. Thanks for listening. Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to us red-pilled Americans. You can get great discounts on all MyPillow products right now at MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener specials and get deep discounts on MyPillow mattress toppers, towels, and much more. Mike is offering a buy one, get one free on Giza Dream Sheet Sets. Go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener square and use promo code RED, or call 800-872-0519 and use promo code RED.